So hello everyone and welcome back to another video. If this is the first time here, I am Remy and welcome to my channel. Today we are back in my room with the old setting and I'll be doing a book haul. So buying books is a pretty expensive hobby. I mean, reading books and buying books is two different hobbies and they can both actually be very expensive. Recently I have bought, in my opinion, a lot of books. So I thought that I would like to show them to you. So yeah, I don't know if what I have bought is considered a lot of books or not, but for me this is definitely a lot of books that I have bought recently. So I thought that I would show them to you. And yeah, so the first book I have here is The One Q Wait For by Haruki Murakami. I'm like a typical classic reader or likes to read murder mysteries and historical fiction, stuff like that, but I really wanted to get out of my comfort zone and read something new. So I always wanted to read something by Haruki Murakami, but I just didn't know where to start until I found this book for less than, I don't know, for about $1 or $2. So I thought, why not just buy it, and then maybe it was a sign to just start with this book. So 1Q84, this book is divided into 3 volumes. This is just one of them. And I'm not sure actually about what it's about, but it says here that it is about 2 main characters, a girl called Ayomeme, I'm not sure how this is pronounced, and a guy called Tengo who likes to write and stuff like that. I also think that he works as a teacher. And it says here that they are living in 1984, and then they kind of discover a dimensional world which is called 1Q84, and Q stands for question or something like that, and this is where the story goes from, and these 2 main characters, I don't know, somehow meet each other in this dimensional world. So I'm pretty excited to see where Haruki Murakami is gonna take us, and I am pretty glad that I would get to know more about getting more into Japanese literature. I have never read anything by a Japanese author, so I'm very excited to get into this one. Now, the second book I have here is Where the Crawdad Sings. I couldn't be more happy to actually find this book in Danish. It has just recently been translated, and sorry for my voice. And can we just appreciate how beautiful this cover is? So there is kind of gold plants here, and the writing is also covered with some gold. It just shines whenever it hits the sun. I don't know if this is if you can see it on camera. And the spine here is gorgeous. Just look at it. It just shines with the sun. I can't really get over how beautiful it is. But let's be honest here. This is way more beautiful than the English edition. So I am very happy to have this one. And this book has been very much hyped up, so I am very excited to read it, and I've heard a lot of good things about it. I've actually never read a review where people said that they didn't like it, so I have very high expectations for this one. So it says here on the back that a lot of rumors has been going on about the Marsh girl who has lived a wild childhood, and it's about the main character called, I don't know, Kaya or Kia, how would you like to pronounce that? I don't know. And it's very awkward when I try to pronounce names, but yeah. Let's say I would like to call her Kaya. I don't know if this is right or not, but it's about Kaya who has lived a wild childhood, and she never really could fit in the calm little city in North Carolina's coast. And I've actually lived for about 6 months in North Carolina. I'm very much familiar with the place, so I am very happy and very excited to read something about something that takes place in North Carolina when I have actually been there. Well, it says that she lives alone in the marsh, left by her family, and she is fighting to find her place in the world. But a murder occurs to happen, and Chase Andrews is found dead outside of the city, and all in the city suspect the Marsh girl for being involved in the murder, and this is where the story kind of goes, where I think here it says that she is not the actual murderer, so she would probably try to find out what really happened to Chase Andrews and who has actually killed him. So yeah, I am pretty excited to see where this is going from, and I'll actually be doing a reading vlog about this book, so stay tuned. I myself enjoy watching reading vlogs about books that I would like to read, so this is why I thought that I would do a reading vlog about this one, and yeah. Now the next book I have here is Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. I have only read, the only book I've read by her is The Nightingale, which I was absolutely amazed with, and I really adore it. It's really one of my all-time favorites, so I thought that I would really like to get more into this author and her writings. Kristen Hanna, his style of writing is very descriptive, very alive. I absolutely loved it. She has this amazing ability to describe things and make you feel as if you were there in the moment. I've read The Nightingale, which was set during World War II, and I actually mentioned it in one of my videos before. I will just put a link up of it here somewhere. And yeah, I can't recommend The Nightingale enough. Kristen Hanna literally ripped my heart out, stepped on it, and then burned it alive. She is just amazing, so I thought I would get more into this author and her writings with Firefly Lane. This one is not about war this time. This one takes place in 1973, about Kate and Charlie, I think, who meets each other and getting this very strong friendship. So they begin a friendship, and then over the next 30 years we follow these two main characters and their struggles in life. I've heard that the ending is as devastating as all her other books. I don't know why she likes to have like sad endings, but yeah. So I'm pretty excited to get into this one, especially it is by Kristen Hanna. I've also had heard about The Great Alone and what was it called? The Four Winds. I've heard a lot about these two books, so I also really want to get into them. They are just a lot expensive, so I am gonna wait to buy them until I've read this one, and I can't actually wait to read it. So yeah. So the next book I have here is A Kingdom by Robin Young. And this book is actually a part of a trilogy, and this is like the third book in the trilogy. But I mean, like on the back it says that each volume can be read on its own, so I haven't actually read the first and second book. I just found it for a very cheap price, and then I bought it, and then when I came home I just figured out, oops, it's a part of a trilogy. So this book is about the main character called Robert, who has just been crowned as a king, but all in a sudden Scotland has been taken, and he's no longer like he's a king, but without a land he can control. So all this book is about Scotland trying to gain independence, and about revolution and what happens until Scotland is independent in 1314 or something like that. I mean, yeah, I've like at the back I could read that the author have done a very huge research about this time of period, so he could kind of write it in a fiction way, but again have some realistic historical issues with it. So again, pretty excited to read this one. Now I also have The Seven Sisters by Lucinda Riley. This is how her last name is pronounced. I don't know. My English is very bad. But this is The Seven Sisters. This book has been hyped up so much here. I don't know if it has like been hyped up in other countries as well, but here in Denmark it is very much hyped up. It's about, as you can assume, 7 sisters, and it takes place in 2007, and it also takes place in 1927. So it kind of goes further back between the years, and it's about the 7 sisters who has been raised by Pa Salt, and all in a sudden he dies, and then they found out that each one of the sisters has been adopted, and he has like left a small letter with a clue about their parents and their history, so they can go and search about who they actually are and who their parent was once a time. So there is 7 books in this series, and each book tells the story of each sister. So in the first book here we follow a girl called Maya, and I think she's the eldest of them, and the note her father or Passalt has left to her guides her over to Rio de Janeiro in Brazil, and this is where she starts to try understand more about what happened to her family and why they left her and why she got adopted and stuff like that. So it's more about her adventures searching for herself and what happened to her family and the history of her family. I've actually read the first 45 pages of it right now, and it seems to be pretty good until now. Not a lot has happened, but this book is also about 520 pages, so it is pretty long, and I am kind of scared to get myself together to actually read the whole thing, but I'm sure that I will do it one day. So yeah, next book next book I have here is by Dan Brown. It is Angels and Demons. So this book is a part of the series. This is the first one of the books, and there is 4 more. And Dan Brown is the same author that got very much popular by writing the Da Vinci Mystery. And this was like the main reason why I bought it. I also found this one for a very cheap price, like for $1 or $2 or $3, something like that. But it's about a murder that occurs to happen, and then they try to dig back in history, and with using symbols they try to solve the murder mystery. I don't know if this makes sense. So there is like a small synopsis of the story here on my phone. So it says here that a scientist is found dead at CRN, which is the European Atomic Research Center, and on his chest Professor Robert, which is I think our main character, Robert Langdon, finds some mysterious symbols that lead him on the trail of the old Brotherhood Illuminati, which is said to have threads all the way to the supreme power layer of the world community. The assassination soon turns out to be part of a far more complicated plan, and the Brotherhood is trying to take revenge on their worst enemy, which is the Catholic Church, and this is where the story kind of goes from. The other book here, I've actually bought this one for about 2 or 3 weeks ago, so it's not really new, but yeah. This is the Blue Castle. I put a picture of it here of the English or original edition, but I found it in Danish. I couldn't get an English edition of it, but I'm gonna read it in my first language, so I'm pretty happy with that. This is the Blue Castle by Anna Montgomery, which is the same author of Anne of Green Gables and the Emily trilogy of Emily of New Moon. I have talked about this book on my Classics TBR. I'll put a link of it somewhere here if you wanna go and watch the video. But I've talked a little about this book, but I can kind of talk about it again. It's about Valency, who is 29 unmarried woman, and on the day of her birthday she discovers something when she goes to her doctor, which makes her decide to change her life forever. So she is so it is said on the back here that she lives with her mother and cousins, which is described as being mean and rude and very controllable, and they always seems to look down at her because she's 29 and still not married. So it definitely deals with some issues in the community back in the 20th century, and this is where the story kind of goes from. So yeah, and then I have here the 2 last books. I have A Fall from Grace by Danielle Steele. Is this how it's pronounced? I don't know. This book was also found for a very cheap price, and you can see like the edges of the pages here is crying. And I also found this one for a pretty cheap price. As you can see here, like the edges of the book have seen better days, but I mean, buying a book for $1 or $2 is, I mean, who says no to that? So I bought these two books by Danielle Steele because they were on sale, without knowing actually anything about them. I have just seen her books all over the place in bookstores and stuff like that. This one is A Fall from Grace. So it says here on the back that the story is about Sydney Wells, who is living the perfect life, but when her husband dies in a tragic accident, she loses everything she have. And it is because that he hasn't wrote anything for her in his testament, and this is why she all in a sudden is back with no money and no job, and she needs to start her life again from zero. And this is where the story kind of goes from, where she is trying to build herself and her life and make it together again. And yeah, I don't know very much more about it than that. So yeah. The next book here is Accidental Heroes, and it takes place on a plane that is traveling from New York to San Francisco, and on the plane, like the people at the airport figures out that something bad is gonna happen to the flight, which is A321. So it says here on the back that a catastrophe will happen on the plane, and this is why the passengers start working together to save as many lives as possible. And yeah, I'm very excited to read it. The book here is again pretty much damaged, but this is what happens when you kind of don't really care. I mean, as long as I can read and the text is there, I don't really care about the condition of the book. They have probably seen better days, but yeah. So this was it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked today's video, please hit the like button, subscribe to my channel, and I would be very happy. And yeah, see you next time in next video. Bye.